Hello everyone, good afternoon. It's a nice Saturday. It's rather hot here. Okay, luckily it doesn't rain. Okay, first of all, I'd like to wish you a very happy holidays. Okay, we waited for so long for these holidays. Okay, so I hope you're enjoying your Saturday. Okay, and welcome to another class. Okay, I would like to try to have a class on for every week. So that I will hope that I can help. I'll be able to explain some difficult concepts for your science, for your biology, and hope I can help you. Okay, hello Jen Xuan, good afternoon. Ex Potato, good afternoon. Okay, good afternoon everyone who's watching at this moment. Thank you for watching. Okay, today I'm going to carry on with chapter 15 of reproduction, human reproduction. Last week I did a difficult topic, menstrual cycle. Okay, so this week I'm going to go to this development of a human fetus. So assuming that fertilization has occurred, okay, what happens to the zygote that has been formed? Okay, so let's look at it now. All right, let's go right down to the lesson today. Okay, let me share screen. Okay, today I'm going to use this layout. Okay, you'll be able to see less of me, but more of the screen. Okay, which is more important. Yes. Okay, so I hope you can hear me. Jen Xuan, Ex Potato, are you able to hear me? Is my voice coming across loud and clear? Can you maybe give me some feedback? Okay, are you able to see this? All right. Okay, let me carry on with the slide. Okay, just let me know. So this is the fetus, human fetus. So later on, I'll explain to you what's the difference between a fetus and an embryo. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the formation of, as you know, fertilization first has to happen. Okay, so you have the ovum released into the fallopian tube, and there will be a sperm probably that swims up the fallopian tube. So there will be fertilization. All right, now, so as you learn this in form 4 and also your lower form. Okay, thanks Ex Potato and Jen Xuan for your feedback. All right, so now you will see this is the diagram which shows the fertilization. Okay, so egg, we call it secondary oocyte, to be specific, secondary oocyte, which is haploid in nature because it only has 23 chromosomes. Okay, this is the egg produced by the mother or the secondary oocyte, and this is the sperm or the spermatozoa, okay, produced by the male, is also haploid. So when both of them combine, the moment of fertilization is when the nucleus of the sperm fuses with the nucleus of the secondary oocyte, okay, to form a zygote. So zygote is actually a cell which is single cell. Okay, even though you have egg is one cell and then sperm is another cell, when there's fertilization, zygote is actually considered as one cell because the two nucleus has fused together. So you're going to have a cell which is called zygote that has 46 chromosomes. That means two sets of chromosome. So we call it diploid. Okay, so afterwards, this zygote will carry on the process of cell division of mitosis. So millions of sperm succeeds in penetrating the oocyte in the fallopian tube. Okay, this is what we learn. Okay, in your even secondary class or science. And then when nucleus fuses with the nucleus, forms a diploid zygote. Okay, fertilization to occur. Right, so that is the mobilization. At the moment the zygote is considered one cell. So when that happens, when the nucleus of the sperm fuses with the nucleus of the female, all right, a change to the secondary oocyte membrane. So something happens to the outer membrane of the secondary oocyte. It will change in nature to cause there's a protective covering there will already reform so that other sperms will not be able to penetrate further. Okay, once one is successful, it will not allow any sperm to penetrate, because I have cases where more than two sets of chromosome in human or in any even for animal. But in plants, you polyploidy, more than one set or sets of chromosomes. Okay, for humans and animals, you only usually have diploid. Okay, so you do not have any other sperm to go in. Okay, after that, the zygote will develop slowly, all right, and then what you have at the end, you have embryo. So today we're going to discuss what happens from the moment of zygote until embryo. So you will, as you see, at the moment of this embryo, it's going to be more than one cell, definitely. Okay, because you see the organs of the baby being produced. You will have the eyes, you have the heart beating. So there will be more than one cell at this moment, okay, at the zygote, at the embryo stage. Okay, so now the early development of an embryo until infant. Now, this is the diagram which shows the progression. Progression means the changes from the beginning here, which is the embryo. Sorry, not embryo, which is the secondary oocyte. Once it has been first moved down the fallopian tube. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit, then you can see the diagram. Okay, so it's a little bit blur, but it's much better, but you can see the progression. The secondary oocyte, once the sperm penetrates, okay, one of them penetrates, the nucleus will move towards the egg cell. You can see my cursor here. Then you will have hormone of fertilization. And once that happens, you have one cell called zygote. Now, after that, is that your cell remain one forever. The cell will undergo a series of cell division called mitosis, where one cell into two, you get a two cells. Again, there's no fit name at this moment. It's just known as a two cell stage. After that, certain hours, I think it takes a few hours, right? Certain numbers of hours will cleave itself. You will get 4 cell stage, and then from 4 cell will divide into two. You will have an 8 cell stage. So every time you times two, the 8 cell stage, 8 cell stage. After 8 cell stage, you will have the next stage, which is 16 cell. Now, then you have a specific name called morula. All right, okay, so morula is basically a zygote which has already cleaved itself to form 16 cell stage. Okay, that is called morula. All right, so let's look at this. Right, let's look at the notes. All right, it undergoes multiple cell division through the process called mitosis. So the meiosis is only for formation of the sperm and the secondary oocyte. Okay, that happens way before this. Once you have the sperm penetrate to the secondary oocyte, it will carry on mitosis only. Right, do not confuse yourself with that. Okay, with this. So once it's down, okay, the mitosis, the fallopian tube, mitosis progresses, carries on. So you have here, all right, this is what I want you to concentrate. The 2 cell embryo is produced in the first cell division. From zygote, you get 2 cell stage. That becomes 4 cell, becomes 8 cells, and finally you have a ball of cells called morula. Morula actually a Latin word, okay, which the word is called morus. Actually, it means mulberry, as a kind of berry, quite related to the strawberry family. But I will show you a picture what a morula looks like. It looks very much, not morula, sorry, the mulberry. It looks very much like morula, or rather, the morula looks very much like the mulberry. Okay, I will show you afterwards. The morula then further changes to become what we call a blastocyst. So you can see the difference here is morula is just a ball of cells, which is that's inside is not hollow. But if you see here very clearly, all right, let me go zoom in again to this blastocyst. You can see that inside of this blastocyst, there will be a group of cells called the inner cell mass. Now, the one that is colored yellow here is the inner cell mass. And you can see there's space here, there's cavity. There's cavity because the cells will move to one side. Again, the outer side here will form the outer part of it. But the inner cell mass, this is the one that forms the embryo. Yeah, okay. So inner cell mass, these are the cells will go on later to form the parts of the body. That means it's going to form the cells that forms the baby actually. That means the organs lah of the fetus. Okay, and you see the late blastocyst stage, you have the inner cell mass. It's going to form the embryo, and this liquid here is the fluid, all right? It's going to make your amniotic fluid for the baby, the water bag, all right? And the trophoblast here is one part that's going to be implanted into the endometrium lining of the uterus. This part actually will later on progress to form the placenta. Okay, so the trophoblast will form placenta. All right, okay, so this is basically what is going to happen within those few days after fertilization. It roughly takes about 7 to about 10 or 11 days for this one cell zygote, right, to progress onto implantation. So about 1 week later, it will arrive at the endometrium lining. It will embed itself in the uterus, in the endometrium lining. Okay, this is process called implantation. All right, okay, so the blastocyst will then implant itself in the endometrium. This process is called implantation, and the blastocyst will continue to grow into an embryo. So specifically here, the inner cell mass, because the cells have moved to one side already, that forms the inner cell mass that is going to make the embryo actually. Not embryo, the baby, all right, the cells that forms the baby. All right, okay. Now I want to show you the mulberry. All right, this is the implantation. All right, now this is mulberry. I'm sure you have seen a berry like this before. This is called mulberry. Okay, so morus. Okay, so you see all this? Can you imagine this is like the embryo, a ball of cells where you have every cell is similar at that time. It has not started any cell division, any differentiation. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen this morula. It's very this mulberry is very healthy. Okay, it's very good for your health, so you should eat it. All right. So I want to let me look at let you see this progression. So again, zygote day 1 after fertilization, and then later on you get 2 cell stage, 4 cell stage, 8 cell stage, and then after that you have morula, which is the 16 cell stage onwards. Then you will have the blastocyst. So you can see these 3 names here. Inner cell mass, this is going to form the body of the embryo. Okay, the fluid cavity here will form the amniotic fluid, which cushions the baby from physical shock. It sort of protects the baby. And you have trophoblast here. Actually, this is going to form the placenta much later. It's about the month of 3rd or 4th month, where the placenta will be fully formed and it will produce the hormone called progesterone. Okay, right. Now, so let's look at during pregnancy. There's one type of hormone which will produce more than usual, okay, than before a woman is pregnant, right? This hormone is known as Human Chorionic Gonadotropin, or HCG for short. Human Chorionic Gonadotropin hormone. So this is the hormone which is also produced by placenta during pregnancy. This hormone is important because it will maintain the condition of pregnancy. Okay, so this level of a hormone will rise. Okay, it will double in the beginning stages of pregnancy. It will double every 2 to 3 weeks for the first 4 weeks. So this is the hormone actually that is going to be detected in the urine of the mother. Yeah, so that remember sometimes when you are not sure when you're pregnant, you can see movies and that the woman will go to the pharmacy and buy a test kit, isn't it? There's a test kit you can buy from pharmacy to test whether the woman is pregnant. So she will have to test this on the urine that is produced. All right, you dip the stick into the urine sample, and the test kit actually detects the presence of this HCG hormone. So if you have that hormone, most likely the chances of being pregnant is very high. Okay, so the main function of this hormone is to ensure that the corpus luteum. continues to secrete estrogen and progesterone. So these are two very important hormones, like I mentioned earlier in my previous lesson, my last week's class. A woman who's pregnant should have high amounts of progesterone and estrogen, especially progesterone. It maintains the thickness of the endometrium lining. Okay, if this fails to occur, that means if there's not enough progesterone, there is going to be a high risk of miscarriage because the blood vessels in the endometrium lining will tend to break down. Okay, when they tend to break down, then the woman will experience discharge of blood. Okay, that will be the early signs of a miscarriage. All right, okay. So this hormone can be detected in the urine of pregnant mothers. So this is the initial stages of pregnancy. When the woman does not know she's pregnant, she will buy this test kit, all right, which you can get from pharmacies. All right, and you can see just like your, now you're very common, you have this antigen test kit for your COVID-19. COVID-19. You have two lines indicates positive test. Okay, when it's not pregnant, you have one line only. Okay, one line only to indicate that this test kit it functions, it works. All right. Okay, so you have two lines. It shows positive. One line is negative. Same thing for your test kit for the COVID. Okay, so this is another type of test kit. Okay, pregnancy test kit. Okay, let's look at the role of placenta during pregnancy, the 9 months or 36 to 40 weeks of pregnancy. The placenta and umbilical cord plays a very important role in maintaining the health of the fetus. Okay, fetal development means the development of the fetus to make sure that the baby is healthy and is going to be delivered. And the baby bonds, it's not going to be we call it premature. Okay, if the baby does not form until full term, you call it a premature baby. That means the organs are not fully formed. Okay, so the placenta is formed from the mother's endometrial tissue and embryonic tissue. So this is from the trophoblast layer in the blastocyst, the one that I showed you earlier, from the trophoblast. Okay, it is connected to the fetus, okay, through the umbilical cord. So the cord is actually like a tube, umbilical cord, and it contains blood vessels. The placenta is a big tissue, right? And that is the place where there's going to be diffusion of oxygen from the mother to the baby's blood, and also the waste product from the baby will be will diffuse back to the mother's blood. Okay, so that is the exchange of substances that happens in the placenta. So this is a very, very important organ. Otherwise, the baby will get nothing, right? If you do not have the placenta, the baby will not be able to survive. Okay, the umbilical cord, all right, in Cantonese we call it qi dai, okay, is the tube that contains the umbilical vein and umbilical arteries. Now, why do you have this word arteries? Because you have two arteries there actually. There are two umbilical arteries and one umbilical vein. Okay, the next slide, I'll show you the diagram. There's actually one vein and two umbilical arteries in the cord itself. So the cord is not just one blood vessel. Actually, you have three there. One vein and two arteries. Now you learn about the function of vein, the function of artery. Usually you will say that artery is known as an artery because it carries blood away from the heart, correct? The definition of artery is not because of the type of blood it carries. Arteries do not always carry oxygenated blood. As you remember, you have a pulmonary artery which carries deoxygenated blood. Okay, so the definition of artery, it's not by what type of blood it carries, but actually the direction of flow. If the artery, if the blood vessel flows away from the heart, that is known as an artery. If the vein, okay, a vein is actually the blood vessel that carries blood back to the heart. That is why it's known as a vein, not because it carries deoxygenated blood. Okay, now, but for the baby, for the umbilical vein, all right, it carries blood rich in oxygen. So you will see that this is a bit different from what you learn. You notice that when you learn previously, mostly veins will carry blood that is lacking in oxygen or deoxygenated. But the umbilical vein actually carries blood rich in oxygen. Now, why? Okay, I'll make it a very simple way to remember. Okay, because when you talk about umbilical vein or umbilical artery, you're talking about the blood vessel in relation to the baby, not to the mother. You're looking at the artery and the vein from the viewpoint of the baby. So when you talk about umbilical vein, it should be the vein that brings blood into the baby's heart, not the mother's heart. Okay, so when you talk about umbilical vein, you should look at it from the viewpoint of the baby, not baby, not say baby, like fetus, because once it's not born, you can't call it as a fetus, a baby yet. Only when the baby is born, all right, then you call it baby actually. So in technical terms, it is still a fetus until the moment before it's born is still considered a fetus. So let's come back to this. So when you talk about umbilical vein, is referring to the direction of the flow of the blood into the fetus heart. So that's why when it goes in the fetus heart, it should be rich in oxygen because the blood comes, the oxygen comes from the mother and the mother supplies it to the baby. So this umbilical vein must be rich in oxygen. And it's also nutrients, all right, coming from the placenta to the fetus. So you see, I underline the word to the fetus. That means it's bringing it to the fetus heart, the heart of the fetus. Now for umbilical arteries, it carries deoxygenated blood. Okay, so it's something you need to remember that. All right, doesn't mean arteries is always, because we're not talking about the mother now. We're talking about the arteries and the vein in relation to the fetus. So now artery means it comes out from the fetus heart. That it means it should be bringing the blood away from the heart, away from the baby, away from the fetus. So it should be carrying deoxygenated blood. Okay, and also waste products, nitrogenous products, okay, from the baby or the fetus to the mother. Okay, such as what? Urea, okay, from the fetus. So you understand that? All right, now you just need to remember this concept. When you talk about umbilical cord, all right, you're talking about the vein and the arteries. From the viewpoint, direction of flow, it's from the fetus. All right, so vein is rich in oxygen, but the umbilical artery is lacking in on oxygen. Now, so here, I'm going to show you, all right, this is the actual picture of a baby who has just been delivered, all right, and you'll see the placenta has been delivered entirely pulled out. Okay, the doctor has not cut the umbilical cord yet, right? And the placenta has been delivered. Okay, this is the last stage of pregnancy, last stage of childbirth when the placenta is delivered, and you can see this entire organ here. Okay, it is up to almost about 1 kilo. It can weigh up to 1 kilo. Okay, and this is the umbilical cord. All right, now let's go to the next slide. Okay, now next picture. Now, so you will see inside the umbilical cord. Okay, let me show you this. Yeah, you will see one red one. That's the vein, and you can see two blue ones. This is the artery. The blue is in fact the arteries, the umbilical arteries. The red one is the umbilical vein actually. Okay, so this is a diagram. It's not a real picture of the baby. All right, next one. And you can see here, all right, that this umbilical vein, I mean, look at this one. All right, this one. Yes, this one. Okay, the red one is the umbilical vein, and the two blue ones here are the umbilical arteries. So please label them correctly if you are ever asked to label. Okay, so the red one actually is coming from, let me write down, let me draw this here. The red one is actually delivering the blood to, oh, I can't draw it when I'm, this one, let me just, okay, this one. Let me look at this. Yes. So if it is coming, this is going to the baby, the umbilical vein. And for the arteries, okay, the arteries here, it is actually blood going away from the fetus. And it will move into this whole piece I'm looking here is the placenta. And this is where the mother's blood will be. This is the maternal arterial and maternal venal. This blood supply is from the mother. Okay, so artery goes in and the vein goes here. Okay, so let me draw it this way. This is the mother's, we're looking at the mother's viewpoint. So the blood, all right, this one goes in here and the artery goes up here. Okay, so this blood, there is a mother, this is called the maternal blood pool. And you will see very clearly that the blood vessel of the baby, they do not come in direct contact with the mother's blood. This is a very important fact. I'm going to go through it again afterwards. This blood that you will see here, okay, you see here very clearly, the blood vessel of the baby, which you can see, this chorionic villi, okay, because it branches out like this. This is the this diagram here. This is the baby's blood supply. And the one here over here, this is the mother's blood. They do not mix. They are still separated by the membrane of the blood vessel. And this is important. Okay, later you'll see why is it important. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I see there are no questions yet at the moment. All right. Yes, Jen Xuan, I hope I'm still very clear to you. Can see. Okay, I don't have many people with me. Okay, but it's all right. Okay, I just want to deliver a lesson every week so that I might be able to help whoever who wants help lah. All right, doesn't matter. Okay, so you have this diagram, an actual diagram taken from the fetus who's still in the mother's womb. If you were to label, this is the umbilical cord here. Okay, all right, I have to, this is the umbilical cord, and the placenta is this entire piece here, which is the placenta. All right. Okay, let's look at the structure of human placenta. Actually, if you were to pull away the placenta from the mother's, the uterus, you will find that there are two surfaces, there are two faces. Okay, there's one side which we call the facing the fetus. The fetus will be able to see this side. This is called the fetal surface. You see here? So this part, okay, look at this blue. I hope you can see that. Let me just check whether you can see that or not. Yeah, I'm drawing it in blue pen. So that is the fetal surface. You will see all the blood vessels here. Okay, the umbilical cord here, you can see the branching out of the blood vessels here. Now on the other side, I'm going to draw a different color. Okay, this black. Okay, now this side, all right, you see here, this is called the maternal side. So maternal side, the structure is slightly different. You can see these are all chorions, okay, which are the highly branching out of these blood vessels, and that will be, of course, to increase the surface area. So you have efficient diffusion of gases and so on, and the nutrients. So this is the maternal side. Okay, you see that both different. All right, this is the maternal side, maternal surface. You have this cotyledon, we call it cotyledon now, and same. And this is the placenta side. You have a layer of membrane known as the amnion covering it. Okay, you can see there's a membrane covering it. Okay, so this is how you actually look at the placenta. All right. Now, the importance of placenta. Why does the baby need a placenta? Okay. Now, the placenta is the site of exchange of substances. So you will have oxygen being delivered to the baby, carbon dioxide being taken away from the baby, delivered back to the mother. You also have nutrients crossing from the mother, supplied to the baby, to the fetus, and the fetus removing, okay, carrying away urea or this nitrogenous waste, okay, from the fetus to the mother. So these are what we call the exchange of substances: nutrients, respiratory gases, and also waste. Okay, so what are the things from the mother delivered to the baby? You have glucose, these are nutrients, amino acids, hormones, antibodies. Now you can see antibodies have very small structure. They are able to cross the membrane of the blood, okay, of the blood capillary. So they can be passed on to the baby. The mother can pass on antibodies to the baby and oxygen. But red blood cell cannot. Red blood cell of the mother is not able to cross over into the baby. But the antibodies are small structures, they can. The red blood cell, they do not. And that's important why they should not mix. Okay, because you will find that the antigen, sometimes the mother and the baby will have different antigen in terms of the blood type. Okay, I'm sure you learned that in Form 4 last year, where you have your rhesus positive and rhesus negative. Okay, if you forget, just revise back chapter 10. Okay, when you learn about the blood grouping, we learn about the ABO blood system. We also learn about the rhesus positive and negative. So sometimes the mother and the baby can have different rhesus. Some mother can be negative, the baby can be positive, or vice versa. Okay, because of the influence from the father. The father could be positive, the mother negative, and therefore the baby can be positive. Okay, and so on. So these are the things that are able to pass through the membrane of the placenta. At the same time, these are the nitrogenous waste. These are the waste products, carbon dioxide, okay, urea. They are absorbed from the fetal blood capillary into the mother's blood secretion. So these are the things that the baby does not want. Okay, right? Now, the placenta also acts as an endocrine organ. Okay, now you learn about hormones. So besides allowing these nutrients and respiratory gases to pass through, the placenta also produces hormones. Okay, that is what you already learned earlier. You learned it produces progesterone and also estrogen, particularly after the 4th month. Okay, because before the 4th month, the placenta is not that mature yet to produce the progesterone. The progesterone will come from the organ, the tissue in the ovary called corpus luteum. So for the first 3 to 4 months of pregnancy, the progesterone comes from the corpus luteum. Okay, then after that, after the 4th month, the corpus luteum will degenerate. It will break down. All right, it will sort of like disappear slowly, and that's not important anymore because that function of producing progesterone will be taken over by the placenta. Okay, so placenta will replace corpus luteum in producing progesterone and estrogen needed to maintain endometrial thickness until the delivery. Okay, that means from 4th month onwards until the moment of delivery. All the hormones will come from the placenta. All right, okay, so let's carry on. Now you can see here, it is important that they do not mix. Let me look at this. Yeah, can you see here? The membrane, there is membrane, the blood vessel, the baby's blood vessel or the fetal blood vessel, they are still contained in the blood vessel. And this is the mother's blood here, over here. This is called the maternal pool of blood here. And the blood does not cross over, they do not mix. Only what happens is diffusion of the substances that the fetus wants, for example, oxygen and also nutrients, and also diffusion of substances which the baby does not want, which means the waste products. Okay, so the mother's blood, okay, the maternal, the vein and artery, it will pour into this part. This is called the maternal pool. Okay, the maternal pool, the blood, and you can see that this is the baby's blood vessels. They do not actually come into contact. So the red blood cell, the white blood cells and all that, they do not mix with the mother's blood. Okay, you can see very clearly here. So remember this umbilical vein and the umbilical arteries, you should know how to label already. Okay, now next. So fetal and maternal blood systems, I already showed just now, they do not mix. Okay, so here let's look at why it's important for them not to mix. The blood of the mother and the fetus, they do not mix as they are separated by a thin membrane. The membrane here is the membrane of the capillary of the blood, the baby's blood. And also on the mother, you will have the membrane there. Okay, it protects the fetus. Importance. Why? Why they do not mix? Number one, it protects the fetus from certain dangerous chemical substances. For example, toxins and bacteria. Now, toxins and bacteria, bacteria would probably be not able to move across because they are of a certain size. So if the mother has certain bacterial infection, okay, this bacteria will appear, this bacteria will be present in the blood of the mother. So if it travels all the way to the placenta, all right, and if the baby's blood mixes, the bacteria will go into the fetus. It will attack the fetal cells, and the baby has a risk of dying. All right, of the baby dying. All right, so that's why that is to prevent the bacteria from going into the fetus, from being passed on to the fetus. Okay, but this is not for all. Toxins, some toxins we call the substances that are produced by infection and so on. Sometimes some of them are very small. They are able to cross. So it does not protect 100%. Depends on the size, okay, or the microorganisms or the bacteria. If it's of a certain size, it's large enough, it will not cross. But there are certain chemicals that can cross. Okay, later I'll show you what they are. Okay, number two. So number two, why do we also need to separate the two? Because it prevents the thin fetal blood vessels from bursting. If you have the mother's blood directly go into the baby's blood, you find that the mother of course has higher blood pressure than the baby, right? The baby's tissues they are fragile. So if you have this high blood pressure, when it rushes into the fetal capillaries, it may burst. Okay, it may break because of the pressure. So that is not a good thing, right? You will have hemorrhaging, right? The baby will bleed, right? So number three, it also, this is very important, it prevents agglutination of blood clotting. Okay, agglutination you have learned in the chapter 10. Blood clotting from happening in the fetus, as the fetus might not be of the same blood group as the mother. Yes, because of the antigen that is found on the red blood cell. The important thing to decide whether there's going to be agglutination or no agglutination is you look at the presence of antigen on the red blood cell, not the antibody. Okay, you don't look at the anti-A or anti-B or whatever, but you look at the presence of the antigen A or antigen B, or in this case, you also can talk about rhesus, okay, the antigen rhesus on the surface of the red blood cell. So because the red blood cell cannot cross, therefore you eliminate this danger because the antigen will not be able to cross the, you call it the blood barrier. It will not be able to cross. So then you save the risk of the different type of blood grouping for the mother and the fetus. Okay, so because you're looking at the presence of antigen on the red blood cell, and red blood cells cannot cross. Red blood cells cannot cross the blood barrier. We call it the blood barrier. Okay, now, however, there are certain substances which are still might be able to pass through because of the size. Okay, we always look at the size when we talk about whether some certain substance can or the molecule can pass through the membrane. In biology, we always look at the size of it. Okay, so sometimes they are small. Okay, they are small enough. The chemical or the substance is small enough, it can still pass through. Example, drugs, certain drugs, medication, cigarette smoke, the chemicals in the cigarette smoke, and also alcohol. That's why you see an alcoholic mother who does not stop drinking when she's pregnant, the baby can have, the alcohol will pass through the baby to the fetus, and the baby can have addiction to alcohol. So that will cause withdrawal syndromes and so on for the baby. So alcohol can move into the fetus, and it can also damage the liver of the baby. Okay, so it can pass through. And that's why when I also stress if a woman who's suspected to be pregnant, when she goes to a doctor for medication, let's say she has a flu, an influenza, and the doctor prescribe any medication, a mother should always tell the doctor that she is pregnant. Maybe at the time when the stomach is not big enough, I mean the belly, the abdomen is not big enough, she always tell, okay, I'm maybe 8 weeks pregnant. At that time, you still cannot see. Okay, so I must tell the doctor, and the doctor will know how to prescribe medication, because there are certain medications that can cross the placenta and there are certain medications that cannot cross the placenta. So if the mother is knows enough knowledge about these things, should always alert the doctor that I am pregnant. All right, so the doctor will know how to give the medication so that the medication is only for the mother. It will not cross the placenta and be delivered to the baby. Okay, so that is knowledge for you. Yeah, so they come out as a question. Who knows why it's important for a pregnant woman to inform? Let's say a woman who is 8 weeks pregnant, you can't see, definitely not noticeable yet. Why is it important for her to tell the doctor that she's pregnant before she, let's say, if she needs to take medication? Okay, now that is a K-pop question for you. Okay, right. So viruses, viruses, because they're very small. So that's why a mother who has AIDS, okay, because she has the HIV virus in her blood, this can be transmitted to the baby. It can cross the blood barrier. It can be delivered to the baby because the size of the HIV virus is very small. Okay, viruses are definitely much smaller than bacteria. Rubella is also the virus. Mother, we call it German measles. If the mother has contracted German measles, and the first 3 months of pregnancy, the baby is at high risk of contracting rubella, because rubella virus has a tendency to attack new tissues or young tissues. That means the baby lah, and the baby can die. The baby can die in the womb. Okay, so it's always good for a woman to be vaccinated against German measles or rubella. Okay, in Cantonese we call it tak kok ma. We call it German measles tak kok ma, right? Which is highly contagious. All right, if you have the rubella, you have contracted rubella from someone who has rubella. Okay, so that's why these things is important for you to know. So drugs and medication, certain drugs, certain medication, cigarette smoke, alcohol, viruses, they can cross the placenta. All right, okay, so there I have finished what I want to tell you today. So today's lesson is not very, very difficult. It's even shorter than usual. So I would like to wish you a happy holidays. All right, you are well-earned 3 weeks of holidays, but do not enjoy it until you do not look at your books. Next year you have a big battle going on that is going to be a SPM. So please use the time wisely and to do questions and to revise your Form 4 work especially. And I hope to see you in my next lesson. All right, so next week I will probably not have a lesson because I will be away. So I will try to come back the following week. All right, so next week I will not have lessons. Okay, so I wish you all the best, and please do watch the videos if you need explanation, all right, on certain difficult concepts. And I am most welcome for you to message me if you need to ask any questions. I'll be most obliged. I do not mind answering questions. Okay, so do share my video, and I hope to see you next lesson, all right, which is going to be like 2 weeks from now on. Okay, ex-potato needs study, teacher. Yes, you do need to study, definitely. 3 weeks is a very good time for you to study. Do lots of questions. You should be doing questions now, okay? And do all the model questions SPM format. You should be doing that. If you get stuck, it's all right. Look at the answers. That's what I always tell my students. You don't need to do it as a test, but if you are stuck, look at the answers, look up your books, and there you have already done your revision. When you look at your books, you're actually doing a revision. Okay, Putri Aliza, thank you very much. You're most welcome. Mens, thank you. Welcome. Ex-Potato, thanks for joining my class. I hope to see you 2 weeks from now on. Okay, bye-bye. And do share my videos and subscribe and tell your friends about me. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. See you.